On this episode, we discuss the movie set on the sexiest holiday, Labor Day. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
And interested in Stuart Wellington's new way of talking, I'm Elliot Kalin.
Should I not just keep doing that? Or
Hey, it's up to you. It's a free country.
I mean, should I not keep doing that?
No, actually don't. Yeah. Started as Fred Schneider, and then it became just kind of like, I don't know, a fat guy in an 80s comedy. Well, I don't know what's happening here. Well, you kids better stop it before I call the police.
It was a little Jimmy Stewart.
We'll shut down this bikini party.
Old man Jimmy Stewart hates bikini car
Imagine
washes.
if Jimmy Stewart's career had really gone downhill and he had to do bikini movies. Well, what is that? That girl over there is quite a beautiful piece of tail. Bobby, why don't you ask her out?
This was advertised as a bikini car wash. They're taking their tops off.
I'm not paying for that. This is a service I did not ask for. Well, I got a letter from the bank saying I have to lose my bikini store. I can't pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
I'll have to put on some kind of strip show.
My uncle left the bikinis, so they lost them somewhere. Sorry, anyway.
Wait, what?
I'm trying to do a It's a Wonderful Life thing.
Oh, I see.
Uncle Bill.
Where are the bikinis, old man? One of us is going to jail, and it's not going to be me.
Jimmy Stewart's one of those accents for me that always comes out when I try and do Sean Connery for too long. I found a cure for cancer, but I lost it.
So
what do we do on this podcast aside from bad impressions?
This is our Rich Little podcast. This is a podcast
Very little.
where we talk. Now, this is a podcast where we talk about bad movies that we just watched. In this case, the bad movie in question was a little number called Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Rated R.
Day.
Actually, I think it was probably rated PG.
Named after
PG-13
the day every year where America gives up all labor for 24 hours.
Or has a baby.
Wait, what?
Really, it should be called No Labor Day.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that joke that I've seen every day since Labor Day was invented.
Wait, every
Really? You've
day?
been
I've
around
been
every
blind.
day since Labor Day?
Yeah.
Why would they make it Labor Day jokes every day? It's not topical. Why are you doing your Christmas material in
Good one,
June?
calendar man.
Well, for the first 2 years after Labor Day was invented, it was the talk of the town.
I
It was on the
see.
tip of everyone's tongue. And then after that,
Stop
they
doing
just
your
become...
vocal warm-ups. Tip of the tongue.
Labor, talk of the town. So,
This movie could have been rated R, though, for hardcore piery.
now, yeah, there are a bunch of pyromaniacs in this, as in romantic pie makers.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, Labor Day, is that one of these Gary Marshall, like, holiday comedies, like New Year's Eve, or
Comedies.
Valentine's Day, or Arbor Day, or Cinco de Mayo Day,
No.
or Day of the Dead Day, or Armistice Day,
It is,
Boxing
in fact...
Day.
Boxing Day, the movie?
Starring Liam Neeson
I
and
would-
Bill Nye, the science guy.
Naive. I would love to see a movie that is a comedy, where the idea is that, like, some filmmakers in a small English town made their version of a Gary Marshall multi-character holiday movie, but it's Boxing Day, and it's just whoever the meta-ness of the movie is. The story is that they just rounded up whoever they could from around the town. So it's like the greengrocer and the alewife falling in love with each other, and a chimney sweep, and I don't know, like
Chemist, the news agent.
the news agent. Did you say?
Yep.
The news agent of Shield.
See, when you said I would like to see the Boxing Day comedy, I was thinking it would be a couple of washed-up boxers, or like they see a calendar.
grudge match.
They're like, oh, Boxing Day, that's something that's observed in Canada. Clearly we need to go up there because that's where we're going to be stars again. And they discover it's just a day when the servants got to open their presents.
It's just the day that they celebrate Boxing Helena.
Yeah.
Canada and the UK's favorite movie.
Everyone dresses up as a torso with no legs and
And
arms.
they play Living in a Box all day long.
So Labor Day, it's a comedy, right?
No. This is Jason Reitman is trying to
Funny
break
man,
out.
Jason Reitman.
I don't
More like
think
Jason
that's-
Wrong Man.
Oh man,
Wow, you
Boom.
zinged him.
Served.
Boom. He's not getting up soon from that. Because I also punched him.
Wow.
Not really. Anyway,
Go
but
to
what is
jail.
this? So this was Jason Reitman's attempt at making an adult drama.
Yeah, we know him usually from such sort of more cynical comedies
Drama.
as your Thank You for Smoking, your Juno, your Up in the Air,
Why
your
are those
Young
mine?
Adult.
Why are they?
You
why
own
is
the
it my
rights.
Juno? My
You
up
own the
there?
rights.
I,
You are very rich.
I didn't realize. So apparently, I buy the rights to movies
You don't
that disappoint
care for those
me.
movies.
Yeah.
But you figure
Every time I see a movie I don't particularly like, I go, I must buy it. I must own it. And add it to my movie menagerie.
Because if you rid the world of all the imperfect movies, only perfect movies will be
Only
left.
perfect movies like Citizen Kane and Phantasm 4 Oblivion.
I don't want to live in that world.
You don't, it's terrible.
movies.
The world. I thought you meant the world of
You just
Phantasm 4.
rotate it out.
Where there's only 4 people and they're all in a desert all the time because there's no money.
Yeah,
A lot of tuning forks, though.
A lot of
Exactly.
tuning forks.
and a lot of babes, but instead of breasts, they have killer spheres.
Yeah, and Reggie Bannister is showing his age.
Yeah. Whoa. Take it easy, dude.
the guy who was already like balding and paunchy in the first movie, the most unlikely
Yeah,
action
yeah,
hero.
That's what I like about him. Is
Yeah,
that
it's so great.
is that in that movie it's about a kid and his hunky older brother and their friend the ice cream man, and over the course of the movies the ice cream man becomes the hero and is involved in all the action scenes. But enough about Oblivion. We didn't watch Oblivion today. We watched Oblivion. About fantastic movies. We watched Labor Day.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, so this was Jason Reitman's attempt to make a serious drama. He's breaking
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And let's give him ambition for breaking out of the box. He could have made unfunny comedies for a while, and instead he decided to make an unfunny, boring drama.
And I want to, a little moment a peek behind the curtain. We actually watched Labor
The
Day.
Jane Curtain. Jane, can you move over a little bit? Thanks.
Okay. Now we can see the fact that we actually watched Labor Day on a screener, an award screener that was sent because Elliot and I, both being in the
Yeah,
industry,
you're really great.
We're
and
both
awesome
in the
dudes,
Writers
you
Guild, so we
Yeah.
can
We
vote on the
get-
Writers Guild Awards.
yeah, we
You're
get.
insiders.
Yeah.
But so this was a movie that they thought had
In that
real
we're swimming
awards
in cider.
potential. This was a movie
This,
that
well,
they
it won Kate Winslet a Golden Globe.
well,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
And
saying.
as a comedy?
You get it.
No, for drama.
Okay.
Yeah, for comedy and musical. But so this is the unlikely tale of a woman who finds love in the unlikeliest place.
Flash forward
With Josh
1987.
Which, not flash forward. The movie is set in 1987, although much of the movie feels like it could have taken place in the 50s, 60s, the 40s. What I'm saying is, unless the kid is reading a comic book or a magazine,
Yeah.
they do or you see a movie poster in his bedroom wall, they do a not very good job
Or a
of
movie marquee.
having a sense of time.
Yeah, this could have
Yeah.
been Steven Soderbergh's King of the Hill for all that we know.
It's true. It would have been Mike Judge's King of the Hill for all we know.
Yeah, sure.
What with Boomhauer showing up?
Mm-hmm.
No, but you're right. This feels very depression-y,
Yeah.
and not just because I was depressed watching it, but then the character will take his
It's
mom
because
to go see
everybody-
Daryl in the
Well,
theaters.
part of it, I guess, is just that the very premise of the movie, which I guess we should state, which is a convict escapes and finds refuge.
Let's start
in
from
his
the beginning.
house.
And refuse.
Let's start.
No, but my point is this convict escaping and staying in the house and finding romance. Like that feels like a noir setup sort of, or
Yeah,
like it
or
feels like
romance. It feels old.
From
feels
the past.
old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Well, this is the past, Dan. It's 1987.
something. All right.
Almost 30 years ago. You feel old
Don't-
right now.
I do feel very old.
Yeah.
Back when Cracked Magazine
People
existed.
are still listening to Duran Duran, right, guys? That's still hip.
I mean, I don't think they were listening to it in this movie.
No.
This was
there
like fucking Stephen King, 1987.
Yeah.
That's the thing. This is a 1987 movie in which you hear no current music from that time, which is a little weird, even when they're in
Yeah.
stores and cars.
And if the movies have taught me anything, in the 80s, people were constantly walking around solving Rubik's Cubes, and I didn't see any Rubik's Cubes in this movie.
It's like how it's in X-Men, Days of Future Past, it's the 70s, and you know that because when Wolverine walks outside, everyone's dressed like a pimp. Everyone. So you gotta 80s up the clothes a little bit. So anyway, that's something that I think normally would be a strength in this movie, which is that they don't 80s it out.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone's dressed like our stereotyped idea of the 80s and listening to the Bangles and
Flashdance,
stuff. Or watching Flashdance. But at the same time, they go too far in the other direction. You're like, when is this? Where? It's maybe they're going for like a classic look.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Timeless.
But it makes it a little
timeless
bit
small
difficult
town.
because there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's
Is this
difficult.
Is this happening another town over?
that's a good point. There's flashbacks that's the stuff that's happening in the late 60s, early 70s, and you don't know that it's different. You think that it could be just cutting through space rather than time.
Sure.
Now, let's talk about the movie. It's 1987, and there's a woman, Adele, played by Kate Winslet, who is a single mom, and she is basically a shut-in. And she lives with her 13-year-old son, Henry, and she doesn't get out much. The dad left the family for his secretary, and so now it's just Henry
The dad
and
played by Clark Gregg.
Clark Gregg,
Mhm.
best known as Agent Coulson.
Ancient Coulson.
Ancient
The rhyme of the
Coulson.
ancient
like
Coulson.
I shot an albatross
Shot the
and hung it
falcon.
around my neck. That albatross's name was Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. For 13
I was
episodes,
cursed.
I was cursed
to
to be
appear on
in
ABC.
in this boring show.
To be the best thing.
Clark Gregg in the rhyme of the ancient Coulson. There we stood. We are a show moving without any motion, like a painted ship on a painted ocean.
Our hubris was our downfall.
In thinking anyone would watch any crap with Marvel's name slapped on it. Anyway, so
We love you, Clark Gregg.
I like him a lot.
Sure.
Yeah. The point is, they're having trouble, and the son is trying to like make his mom happy, and he does this by in the early movie. He makes a booklet that says "Husband for the Day," and it's coupons for like a back rub, and he'll do the dishes and take her to a movie. But it's really creepy.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, I mean, the very name of it, "Husband for the Day," sounds like a porn.
yes.
The nicest porno.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Might I be your husband for
Might
the
I
day?
put up with all your garbage for a day, and then we'll do
Well,
it.
no, I mean, it's like, it was the name of like a Tijuana Bible or something.
Of what? Who are the famous characters who are in it?
John Dillinger. John
Okay.
Dillinger was the
I thought it
husband
was
for
going
a
to be
day.
Dagwood and Blondie or something.
Yeah.
It was
Or
going
like
to be Popeye.
Marlena
really,
Dietrich
really
dresses up like
fucking
a man
all
and has
over,
sex
like,
with
really.
Greta Garbo or something. Yeah,
it's Barney Google and Ingrid Bergman together.
well, finally. It's one of those Tijuana Bibles, yeah, where
There's a mashup.
where Dagwood and Cary Grant double team olive oil. And it was made, and now it rests in the collection of
I
some
like-
creepy overweight guy
By the way,
who bought it in an estate sale from pervert.
It's canonical, right?
Yeah, it's all canon.
I-
It's all Cary Grant canon.
you really have to. I like to think, and you have to know this is
That's why
true.
Bluto's so mad.
There are people.
You'll give it up for a movie star and a guy who eats big sandwiches, but not for me. Yeah, that's Popeye was upset.
Yeah, you gotta think.
Of course,
there-
Popeye is doing it with Nancy, so you gotta remember what?
there are people listening to this podcast who have never heard of what a Tijuana Bible is before.
They don't know.
And are so baffled. And then they Google it,
And they go,
they're gonna be
"Ah!"
so horrified. Anyway, I mean,
Horrified.
charming. It's
to see all these
horrifying.
30s and 40s comic strip characters doing it. Like that big Wallywood drawing, all the Disney characters are having sex with each other. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
Classic stuff. Look it up.
so he's her husband for the day. They go see Daryl on a date
We're
in
only
the
that far
theaters.
into the movie.
But he
so
said,
much
and
plot. We'll get through it.
it's being narrated by grown-up son, and Tobey Maguire is doing the voice of the grown-up son narrating.
Which is, as we've said before, a bad sign for a movie when you have somebody like telling you the story about what their mother taught them as a child.
Yeah. Now, one day they're in a store, and the son and Henry is confronted by a man with a bloody shirt, played by Josh Brolin,
Mhm.
and he says, "Hey, can you help me? I need a ride. Your mom will give me a ride in a car, right?" And it's weird. The movie is going, I guess, for like there's this an air of something dangerous about him, but instead he just comes off as like a really irritating house guest who won't leave. Like he demands a ride home from them. Then he has to stay in their house for a couple hours, then till nightfall. Then he stays for a couple days.
Well,
It's more like a guy they keep doing favors for than like a scary criminal.
And in the early scenes, there's a lot of bass in the soundtrack, so you know there's something suspicious.
The
Right.
music is carrying a heavy load in this movie because there's a lot of slow nothing. and a lot of characters just kind of looking at each other and not doing much.
Staring up at the sky to where the baseball went.
Yeah.
Well, that first
So,
scene too.
The music really is doing a lot of the work.
Brolin doesn't like ever say explicitly like what the situation. Like, he's not making like explicit threats or anything. Like it's all like he's talking in code the whole time.
Yeah, which is
and the soundtrack is telling us what's happening.
well, I mean, it's subtle, and it wouldn't be bad if like the danger unfolded, like they didn't
Mhm.
realize how deep they were getting until it was too late. But instead, the music treats it like fucking Abel Magwitch just jumped at Pip in a graveyard at
Yeah.
night and demanded a saw and some victuals, or he'd strangle him.
And also, it seems
And yet, some great expectations will come from that moment.
what larks. But it seems like it seems like Kate Winslet though can hear the soundtrack because she is reacting.
She's like, that
As
music
if-
is scary.
Yeah.
This is a bad dude.
Yeah.
He should be in the video game Bad Dudes, saving the president.
And not putting his hand on the back of my son's neck.
Now, is that the first time a person has ever made reference to Great Expectations and then Bad Dudes right afterwards? Maybe.
I mean, call Guinness. Look at the archives.
Okay, let's do this for that reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes home and he escaped from. It turns out he's a convict who escaped from jail by jumping out of a window. He was hurt somehow and he's limping.
He
He's got blood on his side.
Yeah, he pretended he had appendicitis to get out of jail
Yeah.
into the hospital.
And he stays there for a while. And to make a long story short, he and Kate Winslet almost immediately begin falling in love.
Start boning down.
And their romance, their wooing begins when he compliments their home, then ties her up so that she can
But
sell
gently.
police that she was tied up gently, and then feeds her some
Such
chili
a
that he made. He makes her some chili and ties her, and then teaches her and her son how to make pies.
Yeah, well, he is a master chef.
This
he
is
should be
the-
on the master
There's
chefs.
literally a scene where she picks up a piece of food he made, and then her eyes go open as if she's just seen God through his food. She's tasted God.
that food is like stimulating her clitoris. Like,
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
sorry.
Was this deep throat? Is it in her esophagus?
I like there was no way of not going gross. I realized halfway through my thought, so I
Yeah.
just went for it.
No, but it's true.
Sure.
It's like he goes from scary to turning her on almost instantly.
Yeah,
And there's this
Yep.
and this movie seesaws
It's
back
like
and
Crash.
forth. Yeah, the movie seesaws back and forth between trying to make us tense and trying to show us passion. So there's a scene where J.K. Simmons, as the neighbor who has too many peaches, shows up with a basket.
So sexy, this J.K. Simmons.
He shows
I don't know if
up. He
that's
shows up with a basket of peaches, and Josh Brolin doesn't want anyone to know that he's there. So he while the son is talking to J.K. Simmons, he has Kate Winslet in like an arm lock, in case he has to use her as a hostage if something happens. And it's supposed to be tense, but then immediately she's like, "We'll never eat all these peaches in time." And he goes, "I've got an idea." And then there's a 40-minute sequence where he shows them how to make a peach pie.
It's the most ridiculous. I mean, like first, like J.K. Simmons shows up and he's like, I've got a basket of ripe vagina metaphors, and like then they're just like all like sticking their like hands into like these moist
And it's
peaches
supposed
and like
it's supposed
massaging
to be
them
like
around.
like water for chocolate, eat, drink, man,
Yeah.
woman type
Or
sex
like
and food
a
thing.
Maria pasta commercial.
Yeah. Except the son is there also
son is
sticking his
also-
hands in his
yeah.
peaches.
Just,
And
like
it's
getting up into those peaches.
if it
Yeah,
was-
it's like fucking "Y tu mamá también."
as if it wasn't already incesty enough that he was her husband for a day.
yeah.
So it's anyway things there
Yeah.
becomes
15 minutes later, once the pie's baked.
And meanwhile, they're having these like very quick flashbacks, like the pawnbroker or something like that, where you just see images and you slowly pick up that Josh Brolin was a soldier who came back from the war and had a baby with his wife, but things didn't work out with his wife, and eventually you learn that she was having an affair and she revealed to him the baby wasn't his, and he got mad and shoved her, and of course she hit her head on the radiator on the way down and died. And then he ran upstairs and found that his wife had left the bathtub running and their baby drowned. So, I mean, a pretty uplifting tale, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of this romance passion story.
I mean, it feels a little bit like
It's like a Greek tragedy.
That they wrote this story. They're like, okay, so he's going to be a murderer. How can we make him a murderer, but like still kind of a good guy?
Well, it's like Con Air, where Nicolas Cage goes to jail for defending his pregnant wife.
yeah, in both
Yeah.
cases we have like a convict Jesus character, basically.
Yeah. Well, Jesus was a convict,
Oh yeah.
except he got the death penalty.
But then he rose.
I
3
don't-
days later,
That's
I've got
not
some
something.
pamphlets.
No, that's
Elliot,
not something I agree. You
bring me
lost
over
me.
to my side.
You lost me on that part. With the dark
Look,
side.
It's fine. It's fine if you want to burn in hell, but if you want to,
Again,
accept the truth of
I
God's
don't
love.
believe in it. God loves me so much, He's going to throw me to hell. He's going to drag me to hell, if
He's
you
going
will.
to snap his wrist and throw you down into hell.
Because
That's
as
a
Josh,
reference to the movie where we watched
Because-
where he taught where Josh Brolin teaches the little kid how to
because
throw
here's the
baseball.
thing: Kate Winslet doesn't just fall in love with Josh Brolin for his pie making prowess and his sexy goatee.
Pie
It's
making
because
prowess.
he is literally the best husband ever. This
Yeah.
convict who's been there for a day. He fixes
On
their
day 2, he starts just doing chores.
He's like, he fixes their rock wall. He counts all their firewood and tells them they're being shortchanged by the firewood guy. He fixes their car. He teaches Henry how to throw a baseball. He cleans out the gutters. He does. It's like
he waxes the floors.
he waxes nostalgic for a time that never really existed. They start, and a friend of theirs comes over and forces them to babysit her disabled son. And he
You may
teaches-
remember her from Silence of the Lambs
Yeah.
as a great big fat girl.
Well,
Very
the
big
person
fat
who was
person.
supposed to rub lotion on her skin,
Yeah.
so she didn't get that.
She's in other movies too.
Yeah. No, but that's her main thing.
That's her famous role as Lotion Girl, as girl who was almost but not made into a dress.
Yeah.
But even like
Spoiler.
the convict even loves this kid, teaches him how to play baseball. Really, this convict
Yeah, it's
is
like
the
when they-
sweetest of
They
sweethearts.
wheel this kid in, and you're like, I think the movie music tries to make you feel like Josh Brolin's totally just going to snap this kid's neck.
That's the thing. Every scene, it's supposed to be super tense, like he's dangerous, until he makes someone a meal or teaches them how to do
it's
something
like,
that cleans
he's
their
gonna
house.
snap this kid's neck, and then we're like, whoa, is he going to sleep with this kid?
And then so it's like, but we can't keep falling for the trap that this movie thinks we're gonna fall for, where it's like, is he finally gonna snap this time? Oh no, he made them s'mores. Like, maybe he's gonna strangle the whole family and burn the house down. No, he's reading them a bedtime story.
Yeah.
Okay, this time he's gonna go on a kill spree and murder 40 people and have sex with their
I'm
bodies.
glad they didn't make s'mores, by the way, because that would have been a little too explicit.
It's like, oh no, he's setting up an animal shelter.
A hotel for dogs.
Okay, now, seriously, he's gonna rob a bank, but it's gonna go bad. He's gonna have to shoot a pregnant lady. Oh, no, wait, he's putting together a parcel of canned food for the homeless in Guatemala.
But the thing about, like, can we talk just a moment about this kid that they babysit, like this disabled kid? It's just a very also off-putting scene because they turn this kid's disability into, like, a suspense thing.
Because he sees that when his mom comes to pick him up, the TV is on and they're constantly broadcasting that this convict is on the loose. They show a picture of him and the kid's like,
the town was on fire with his name.
yeah, and the disabled kid starts trying to say the name of trying to point out to his mother that Frank, this man that he's met, who is hiding right now, is the criminal. Who's Frank, 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 and she says, "Stop it, stop!" And then, does she punch him?
She slaps him.
She slaps him
She's
really
like,
hard.
We watch television when we go home, and then she's like, "Shut up!"
And so it's this little glimpse of like this horrible situation where
Yeah.
this abusive mom is just routinely hitting her disabled child, and then they mostly leave the movie.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, okay, so the movie was worried we weren't depressed enough.
Yeah.
Let's add a little
Let's
bit more
literally
bleak in here.
wheel in someone to depress you more.
Is there a way we could have Lars von Trier guest direct this scene? So but anyway, one thing turns to another,
His
and
soul is escaping his body.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking that I think it's a little bit of bad taste that they named Josh Brolin's character Frank when he kind of looks like Frankenstein's monster.
he does a little bit, I guess, but like a cool, sexy.
Yeah,
Frankenstein
like I don't
monster.
know how they made I Frankenstein and weren't like Josh Brolin. Are you free? Because you totally still look like Frankenstein.
Jay Broles, come on.
Jay
Let's
Broles.
make this happen.
I know you're working on Jonah Hex too.
or
Hexier.
hat-headed hand herders, part 2. More hats, fewer hands.
Man, he's a good actor who's appeared in some bad things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bad movies being made, and Josh Brolin is on their speed dial.
He's a working actor, you know.
Sure.
That's true. Would you rather he be starving for his artistic principles, Dan?
Yeah, you're right. I'm the real monster.
You are.
Not Frankenstein's monster. Me.
No, you are. I mean, the fact that you're a wolf man is part of it.
Look, I just a little hairy. No, I think it's
Ever since you were
insulting.
bitten by Wolfman Jack, the DJ.
Sure.
Anyway, One thing turns to another, and Adele and Frank, Kate Winslet.
I mean,
and,
I think it's literally
and-
only one thing. Not
What-
very much stuff happens.
That's true. This is
Yeah.
a 2-hour movie where there's maybe enough material for like a 15-minute student short. But they fall in love and they decide they're going to run away to Canada, where I guess he's going to get. I think they may have misunderstood how it works.
to
Like-
avoid the convict draft.
You know, they can't draft me to jail if I'm in Canada. And
We've got no extradition with Canada. I don't think.
I think
that's
we actually
true.
do. It's
That's
our,
probably.
they'll never catch us. We can only get through the border patrols. Actually, the longest unguarded border in the world. But the so
Hold on. Keep going.
okay, I have to go on. So, but meanwhile, at the same time, Henry starts going out with a girl, and it's the kind of girl that you see in the movies where she's, I guess, manipulative and is wise beyond her years. And by wise, I mean cynical and manipulative. And
Okay.
she basically exists to sow the seeds of doubt in Henry's mind that this Frank character has replaced him in his mother's affections.
So early on, I was a little confused because the movie mixes in these flashbacks to like Josh Brolin's past. I think only Josh Brolin's past.
Only Josh Brolin's
But then
past.
it uses very similar methods to show this kid having fantasies of this girl,
Yeah.
and it's a kind of strange choice for the movie to use the same style for both its fantasies and its flashbacks.
Well, what is memory
Well, they've got
but a fantasy we tell ourselves was real?
I mean, some of it's it's corroborated by multiple people.
I mean, as some would say that fact and history have a way of merging into fiction and illusion. I believe it was Herodotus who said
No, keep going.
that there were big ants in the desert that collected gold and had fur on them. Turned out that wasn't true.
It's amazing.
True story.
Why would you leave that part?
That's what he said,
Why
though.
would you stop before we were getting to that?
Did people ride on the ants, or were they
No.
Like, is
did they
this
have
not
their
that
own
big.
economy?
No, they're like the size of like a dog.
Okay,
Was this like from nuclear testing, like in them?
Yeah, it was from ancient Greek nuclear testing.
and was
Okay.
that both the male and the female ants, or were the females different, like in China Mieville's Perdido Street Station?
I don't remember. I think considering these animals never existed,
Sure.
in-depth studies were never done. But anyway, it is strange that I guess it's a way of showing interior monologue visually. But
Okay.
frankly, the kid's kind of sex flash fantasy was really the only part of the movie I liked because it
All right, be fair. We saw a few fleeting glimpses of some comic book covers from 1987
That's
and
true.
an old Cracked magazine.
It's true. The parts we liked were he goes and looks at a spinner rack of old comics and we're like, oh, we read those.
Yeah.
Although they were all DC books, which is not my wheelhouse. But then there's a part where it just pans across
Which
this
is
room.
odd because Clark Gregg's in the movie.
Yeah, it should be Marvel books.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't want to get into the whole new universe thing that was happening around then. Suddenly everyone's just thinking about the behind the scenes conflicts that were going on at Marvel and under Phil Shooter's leadership as editor in chief. It's a whole can of worms that
Back in the
that
50s?
no, in the 80s.
Oh.
It's a whole can of worms that Labor Day just doesn't have the time to open up.
Yeah.
So they had DC books, but like it pans across this room and you see just the masthead of an issue of Cracked. You don't even see the full
And all
cover.
three of us were like, "Oh, Cracked!"
Cracked
What's
magazine.
Sylvester up to?
We talked about Cracked magazine for about 6 minutes, but like his fantasy scene at least shows there's like some interesting style and technique there, and like a little bit of visual trickery. Does it really get across what it is like for a young boy to fantasize about sex? Not really, but
I mean, that would be you would have to have X rating to really get into
not
the.
necessarily because a boy his age doesn't really know exactly how sex works.
That's true.
He's just interested he's interested in it, wants to do it, but doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at that age, probably just some breast would do it. For
But
him.
like, there's a shot of an image that he saw earlier, which is the girl
Just
in
breasts.
just random
somebody
your
boobs
run of the
flying through
mill.
the air.
It's your run-of-the-mill breast.
Not even
Disembodied
special. Not even
breasts.
particularly good ones. Just open a door, there's some breasts behind it.
Was heavy metal out at that point?
I think so.
That's
Yeah.
probably what his fantasy.
But he saw the girl in front of him in class. You could see through the back of her shirt just the back of her bra strap. And like I remember as a kid, that was really exciting to like catch a glimpse of just the strap of a girl's bra. So like that felt real to me in a way that the rest of the movie did not feel real at all.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? It's still not as good as the scene in The Ballad of Cable Hogue where he sees the girl's cleavage and it just keeps flashing in his mind. But anyway, so they want to leave, but he starts worrying, I guess, that that they're gonna forget about him when they go to Canada together, and at the same time,
Those worries are almost immediately dissolved, though.
yeah, and the mother of the disabled kid comes by and runs into Frank and sees this strange man in the house. Henry leaves a note at Clark Gregg's house saying, like, I'm going to go, but I'll be fine, so he gets suspicious. And one of these people,
Yeah, we don't know who.
we don't know who,
Wait,
calls
did you mention the Beak? Did we get into the Beak?
The beak?
the Beak.
James Van Der
Oh,
Beek?
And
Vanderbeek.
James Van Der Beek shows up for one scene as a cop who
Well,
drives
no,
him
like
home.
he's also like a guy who may have gotten suspicious. We don't know.
Okay, yeah. So
In a
there's
super tense
Yeah.
scene.
there's a number of suspects who may have
Smoldering.
called the cops, but the important thing is the cops arrive, and Josh Brolin, because he's of course a saint, doesn't want them to get in trouble for harboring a fugitive, so he ties them up, pretends he kidnapped them. He goes to jail. He gets 10 years for escaping, 15 years for kidnapping. And we flash forward to the future. Oh, I forgot there's a scene at a bank that I'll tell you about too that's really stupid. We flash forward to the future, and we find that the grown-up kid, Tobey Maguire, is now a baker. Famous for the pies he makes in the style the convict showed him. The
So
convict
he's an
reads...
intellectual property thief.
Yep. Well, he didn't copyright that pie. It didn't say copyright escaped convict.
By the way, a thing that we joked about during the course of the movie, the idea that this kid would grow up to be a master baker, became true at the end
As
of
opposed to
the
the
film.
master baiter he was as a kid.
Boom.
You got burned,
We have
kid, in the
no
movie.
idea.
Burn that fictional kid.
Yep, he got burned. He got roasted.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Kid who looks like a young Alan Ruck.
he looks like he'll grow up to be Alan Ruck someday, which is not terrible.
No,
Good run
great
on Spin
character
City,
actor.
Cameron in Ferris Bueller.
Was in a really good episode of Justified. A
Yeah.
lot of good
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
What does he
true.
do? What does he do? He was the dentist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does he do now? I mean, he invented
Just
the
hangs out.
he invented the rucksack, so he's rich.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that acting is just a
Trophy beyond
sideline he does as a
measure.
hobby.
He invented a lynch roller he calls the Ruck and Roller.
And of course, there's Ruck Rocks, which are just rocks he found that he'll mail to you for like $100.
The irony is he can't carry all of his riches in one of his patented rucksacks.
Yeah, they're too small. They're too small. Although legend tells of Alan Ruck's original rucksack that it, in fact, was a door to a pocket dimension and had no limits. Anything could be stored in it. And he used it on his many adventures to outwit death and various witches.
Well, the point is, he's lived an amazing life.
Look, many are the myths and legends of Alan Ruck. From how he won the role of Cameron in a card game with God, to how his years on Spin City were spent while also being the king of the elves.
Sure.
He was just a stand-in king of the elves for a little bit of time, until the elf prince came of age. That elf prince's name? Matthew Broderick.
Yep. He followed his father Oberon to the.
His father, Oberon Ruck.
Oh, Broderick. I get it.
Yeah, oh yeah, Matthew Ruck. Oh yeah, they're brothers. You didn't know that? Yeah, Alan Ruck is half elf. But he's so tall you
Brother
wouldn't
meets
know.
brother.
In the elfin tongue, Broderick, yeah, means brother of Ruck.
Ill met by moonlight, Ruck.
Peas blossom. Meet ye Ruck.
Mustard seed.
It's just- oh, there's that time, of course, when Alan Ruck's head was replaced with that of an ass. Yes, the tales. I could sit for hours spinning tales of Alan Ruck and his many quests. The many maidens he bedded, and villains he foiled. The gold he found, the bed linens he soiled. The years he toiled, the seas that roiled. The girls he goiled. And of course, Agent Coulson. A hearty fellow and a battle mate of Alan Ruck. As side by side, they fought, I guess, like the Red Skull and the King of the Norns. Oh, Alan Ruck.
I would love if this started an internet meme on the level of the Chuck Norris meme. Suddenly, Alan Ruck is a folk hero.
He's
He's
some
like
kind
a
of-
Munchausen figure.
He's a fairy tale hero. I heard it was Alan Ruck who killed the big bad wolf
Sure.
and freed Little Red Riding Ruck.
The tales of Alan Ruck riding that cannonball.
The reason why the moon hides its face most of the time is for the shame that Alan Ruck gave it when betting the wife of the Moon King.
That's why the castles and chests are called rucks.
And why a mountain is made out of little rucks.
Yeah. They say he bore a child with a bear, Teddy Ruxpin. And so a bear that could speak English as if man or woman roams the earth with his caterpillar friend. The caterpillar is not the child of Alan Ruck. And of course, who can forget Robin Hood's faithful sidekick, Friar Ruck? The name was corrupted over the years into Tuck, as of course was the basis of the book Ruck Everlasting. And, might I say, Ruck Norris, father of Chuck Norris.
This is so tangentially related to the movie.
In fact, in some counties in Ireland, they still say, good ruck to you. And to be surprised is still to have the ruck pulled out from under you. For Alan Ruck allowed old men to stand on him when crossing muddy streams. And yet he would roll aside, thrusting the old grandfathers into the mud, as to have a hearty chuckle. Oh, he was a charming rogue.
Oh, boy.
So what movie are we talking about? Labor Ruck?
Yep.
Oh, man.
We're talking about The Legend of Ruckules.
We could talk about Ruck Tales till the cows came home. Ruck Tales, a woo-woo. Might solve a mystery, maybe re-ruck history. Ruckules, you said?
Yeah.
The 12 Labors of Ruckules?
Yeah.
Oh, or is that just Truckules? And of course, Ruck's truck. He drove around in.
Oh, boy.
Who can forget when a young Robert
So
Crumb
happy.
met him and was inspired to say, "Keep on ruckin'."
Words
In the free
certainly
world.
do sound
Keep
like
on
other words.
ruckin' in the free world, indeed.
They sure do.
So anyway, long story short, Josh Brolin goes to jail. He sees, years later, he sees a magazine article, I guess in like Pie Monthly, about Tobey Maguire's pies.
Yeah, and he literally says something like, that looks like
saw
a
a familiar pie."
Yeah.
Hey, I know that pie. He writes in to Tobey Maguire, says, "Can I see your mom
I bet it
sometime?"
belongs to a pie guy.
From Super Mario Brothers.
A pie guy meets my eye.
But, you know, your pie struck my eye like a big pizza pie. And I thought, I want a more.
With your mom.
When an eel, something,
So we get some old
Amore.
age makeup at the end,
Yeah.
right?
A tiny bit of old age makeup as Josh Brolin
Little
is
Alan
reunited.
Ruck looks like Tobey Maguire.
Reunited with Kate
And it feels
Winslet
so good.
as old people. And thus the story comes to its conclusione. And he literally says in his letter, "You may remember I spent a Labor Day weekend with you once."
So we get title.
Yeah, like the kid is like, oh yeah, I forgot that time a convict
You know,
came to my house.
I wasn't sure which convict you were that came over and my mom fell in love with you. But you know what? It was you.
Yeah,
That's
you
right.
had a beard, right? Is that you?
Taught me about pies? Yeah.
Kind of like a young Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, there was one idea that came up during the movie was a TV show called The Young Tommy Lee Jones Chronicles. Which would be him mostly, I guess, going to Harvard and then becoming a young actor.
Yeah,
Appearing in the Executioner's song and The Park Is Mine.
Exactly.
And that cheerleading movie, right? Man of the House?
Manimal?
House Man?
Manimal of the House Man. The House Bunny. So that's Labor Day. It's
in a nutshell. Or a pie shell.
I will in a pie crust. I will say this. I give Jason Reitman credit for trying something different.
Mm-hmm.
I take away that credit for him. It's a movie that confuses slowness and quietness with seriousness and emotion. And it confuses characters looking at each other with characters feeling.
Well, that's we
Are the final
we spun
judgment
so
yet?
many tales of Ruck that we
Oh,
probably
and yet
should
there
need
are
to-
so more to
But
behold.
there's-
1,001 are Rucky and nice.
There's a lot of shots in this movie that kind of remind me of shots from the
Tree of Life?
Man of Steel,
Okay.
where it's like these
But that's
bullshit-
also
But that's the
ripping
thing.
off Terrence
That's the
Malick.
thing. It's all ripped off Terrence Malick. But it's the idea of like imparting seriousness on bullshit, where it's like Josh Brolin's teaching them to make a pie or some other kind of food, and he'll like pick up a knife, and then it'll slow-mo on the knife while he reaches around Kate Winslet sexily.
Yeah. I guess, it's like they're trying for a Terrence Malick feel. So when Terrence Malick makes movies, they're about kind of humanity's place in the universe and how people emotionally connect to each other, whereas this is just about, like, a prisoner who teaches a family how to make pies.
Yeah, this guy with a goatee is a bad guy. Or is he not a bad guy? Oh, he shaved off his goatee. He's a good guy now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I wish they had made him someone who really had a past he was ashamed of. Like, who had done something bad, was a bad man, and
Pushing
now...
a woman
change.
to death is bad.
That's bad, but it is. But they made it so that it was an accident. He pushed her, but he didn't mean to do it. He's not responsible.
And
for
he's a
the
cuckold, so everybody can identify with that.
Exactly. All of us have been cuckolded, except me, or ruckold, as it was originally called, because Alan Ruck danced from bed to bed. They said there was many a village where all the children born in one generation had the telltale eyes of Alan Ruck.
Tales of
The
Ruxanova.
bean-shaped head.
Now that's
In fact, they would. I was going to make a Ruck You joke, but anyway,
Okay.
but it's this. I would rather have seen a movie where
Not Mother Rucker.
where Mother Rucker, where this man caught a glimpse of the life that he wished he had, but because of his own actions, and he knows this, it is closed off to him. And he thought for a moment he might have a family, but instead he's doomed himself. But instead, it was all people caught in circumstance,
And basically a Harlequin romance.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, that's what I was like. I think we can
sexy pie making
We can
convict.
kind of skip final judgments where we say whether it's a good bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie kind of liked. I think we all feel like it's a bad movie. It's not terrible, but what I would say about it is, like, I'm not sure why, as you say, they took a Harlequin romance and just decided, like, oh, let's throw a couple of A-list actors at this. Because, like, this is just, I mean, like, the style and the content of it is so much just, like, sort of a bored fantasy of, like, a kind of a dangerous man comes into this woman's life and
But really,
fulfills all of her needs, both sexual and chores-wise.
and chores around the
Well, that's
house.
the thing. Like, even before he shows up, they kind of introduce the characters in the house, and the whole time we're like, "Oh, that needs fixing.
Mhm.
Oh, he's gonna fix that
Guess
later."
they'll take care of that one. There's also a bunch of very ham-handed attempts at suspense, such as when Kate Winslet and her son go to take all their money out of the bank, and everyone at the bank immediately suspects them of something, but they don't know what,
Yeah.
until the son breaks the tension by making a joke of their actual plan to run for the border like criminals, because earlier
Taco
to live Moss. Earlier, Josh Brolin told him that it's easier to mislead people with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the characters have to fake that they're really nervous, and the bank teller has to fake that she's really weirded out by what's happening, and it's the suspense is very.
And we're
forced.
also in a town where everybody is super interested in everybody else.
It's a small town.
Like, as soon as they're like, "Hey, shouldn't you be starting school tomorrow? Shouldn't you be starting school in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Dentist appointment on the first day of school? That's insane."
Your teeth need to learn.
Let's just move
So
along.
bad. Final judgments. Now, what do we do now, Dan?
Move along into letters from listeners, devoted listeners to the podcast.
Listeners of the podcast.
Right in.
Listeners of the podcast, send them some
Devoted
letters.
listeners.
Devoted listeners, not any of you fair weather fans. Just kidding. Send us some letters too.
Send us those letters.
Men and women, boys and girls, all over the world.
Okay.
Send us your letters, but first, take those letters and put them into words, then arrange the words into sentences.
Don't forget to sign your letter.
With your name or someone else's. If you're trying to frame them with the name them with the frame. There's a lot of things that have been covered in this song.
Then we'll frame your letter.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Thanks.
frame every letter we get.
Thanks, guys.
We use E-frames, the digital frames that you put on emails.
Yeah, sure. This podcast sponsored by eFrames, the company that doesn't exist, I think.
With a product that doesn't make sense.
So this first letter
Allows you to frame somebody electronically.
goes a
Stands
little
for
something
Elliott frames.
like this. Hello, Flophouse. I'm only 12 years old, but I listen to your podcast.
That is not
That's
appropriate.
terrible.
So, I am only
Mom!
Mom, what's a tarp foursome?
I am only 12, so I don't have a remark about a reference in some episode. Wow, he's really leaning on this, the fact that he's 12.
We get it, kids. 12. Thanks for writing in, though.
My favorite flopper is Stewart.
Hey, you're the future.
but,
Because he's a totally rad dude.
but Elliot and Dan have a tie for second.
Oh, thanks.
Your podcast is excellent, and I will keep on listening.
Thank you.
Cowabunga.
Keep on flopping from Connor, last name withheld.
Thanks, Connor. That was very nice.
Yeah, I do think that maybe your parents should keep a closer eye on what, you're
On what you
consuming.
listen to,
But
either your parents listen
No,
with
it's
you
cool.
or have
Your
no
parents
idea
go
what
to
you
sleep.
listen to.
no, it's fine.
Hide under the covers, listen to a really
You know
cool
what?
podcast.
I watched.
It's keeping them off the streets,
I watched so many R-rated movies as a kid, as
I
a
find that
result of
incredibly hard to believe.
my parents' laissez-faire style of parenting. And look, I turned out okay.
Yeah, mostly. I mean,
Sure.
you're kind of a perversoid, but otherwise.
Sure.
No, I.
Well, I'm the number one person. If you're gonna do
Your
something,
parents
do
are
it
very proud.
full out.
Your mom is always like, "Did you hear about my son, the number one perversoid?"
Yeah, we saw the
my
fucking
mom is
sticker on the
Jewish?
back of your car.
Yeah, your mom is now Jewish too. Yeah, the student says my son is a perversoid, is an honors perversoid.
Yeah.
My other car is a son.
It's
But
the son.
when I was 12, I was listening and watching too and reading so many things that were not
Ours?
appropriate.
So
Apollo's car was a chariot.
this next letter. During the After Earth discussion, you lamented that there were no quality butt-centric science fiction narratives outside of the porn parody
Did we?
subgenre.
Did we do that?
I guess we did. Well, I'm here to tell you.
This is a dumb
Was it because of all
podcast.
the butt shots of the little kid?
Oh no,
I don't
it's
know.
possible. Well, I'm here to tell you that you are wrong.
Robert Hindloins, the butt is a harsh mistress.
Hind loins.
Hindloins. Robert Hindloins, stranger in a strange butt.
When I was a young man,
Isaac Asimov's Foundation and Butt.
Ray Buttbury. Anyway,
Arthur C. Cracks, 2001 A Butt Odyssey.
The three laws of robotics.
1, a butt cannot harm a human, or through an action allow a human to come to harm. 2, a butt must do whatever a human tells it, unless it conflicts with the first rule. And 3, a butt must preserve its own life, unless it conflicts with the first 2
3, a
laws.
butt must be sexy. No, he says, when I was a young man, in the
I
midst,
believed in silly things.
in the midst of middle school summer reading shopping, I happened upon a book that would change my life forever.
Robotics.
The title of this historic tome, you ask? Why, it's The Day My Butt Went Psycho.
Oh, I know that book. Yeah,
The
I've seen it.
whimsical tale of a young man whose posterior has run amok. Having detached itself from our hero, the titular rump has brought it upon itself
Buttular.
to lead the revolt of the world's butts. But this is barely scratching the surface. As the foreword of the book puts it, this book is full of disobedient butts, runaway butts, psycho butts, kamikaze butts, exploding butts, cluster butts, nuclear butts, giant unwiped butts, butt rallies, butt catchers, butt fighters, butt hunters, butt guns, and explosive butt canoes.
I fail to see how this is speculative fiction that either predicts where technology is going or comments on our social relationships through the metaphor of a future or other world.
As a young preteen, this was the funniest piece of literature I had ever read, and even now as an adult, with a preteen sense of humor, I still find a good chuckle from it now and again. I highly recommend a read, if only out of curiosity. Thanks for the laughs, and keep up the good work. Yours in floppage, Nick, last name withheld.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Again, I don't know if it really fits in the SF genre.
No, but I appreciate you keeping me up to date on the latest or the oldest in butt news.
Sure,
So-
old butts are cool too, right?
I guess.
I mean, as long as they're toned.
All right. Well, we're getting into a weird
Yeah,
area.
like Jack LaLanne's butt.
Yeah, that man. Va va boom. So this next letter, my darling Peaches. As I made my way through the
Is this a Civil
flophouse
War letter?
back
Thanks,
catalog,
Mrs. Dalloway.
I was delighted by an offhand comment Elliot made in the Happiest Millionaire episode. He mentioned another 1960s live-action Disney film, The Ugly Dachshund, and instructed the floppers to write in if we had seen this classic. I am answering that clarion call with a hell yes,
Finally.
I've seen it. The premise is a hilarious mix-em-up, which involves the nagging shrew of a wife bringing her dachshund to the vet to have a litter of puppies. The vet is a kindly old dude who takes pity on the oafish, put-upon husband by sneaking a Great Dane puppy into the litter so the man won't be stuck with a terrible wife and a house full of ankle biters, but will have a proper dog of his very own.
I'm going to take issue with the terms hilarious and dude used in this letter.
At no point does the wife say, "Wow, look, there's a Great Dane in this litter of dachshunds." Everyone just accepts that this giant dog named Brutus is a
Editor Dachshund
dachshund.
have a Marmaduke.
The Ugly Dachshund has it all. Multiple scenes of canine antics in which the mischievous dachshunds make a huge mess and pit it on poor, sweet Brutus. 1960s Disney casual Asian racism. A big dog show finale. Actually, I think that's it. But what else do you need? I mean, there's a scene where an Asian caterer mistakes Brutus, the Great Dane, for a lion, runs around a party screaming, "Ryan! Ryan!" and in their terrified state, destroys a pagoda. This was my favorite movie as a child.
Pagoda?
A pagoda.
Oh, pagoda.
An Abe Pagoda.
Yeah, Abe Pagoda. The Japanese sitcom star
Destroyed.
Abe Pagoda.
Yeah. Dan, at this
I
point,
don't even like a veal piccata.
Dan, at this point, I would like to give you an appreciative shout out for being so steadfast amid all the chaos of your
Chaos?
adorable
Chaos.
co-hosts. I can only
Chaos is
assume.
what the Orthodox Jews grow. Side noodles
okay.
and chaos.
I can only assume Elliot
Dr.
and Stewart.
Chaos from the Planet of the Apes movies.
I can only
Sure.
assume Elliot and Stewart
Chaos
have
also.
interrupted you several times by now.
Well, we wouldn't if he said words properly.
I talk so quickly because I'm trying to keep from being interrupted.
yeah.
It's a violent cycle.
Yep. And by now, you have handled it graciously, truly making you the Brutus the Great Dane to Elliot and Stewart's pack of devious dachshunds. Y'all the best, Tessa, last name withheld.
Thanks, Tough.
Thanks for writing in, Tessa.
No, that's
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's not as advertised as my interest in butts, but I'm also interested in dachshund news.
Really?
Not really, but
Because I've only ever heard you talk about butts.
When
I've
it-
never heard you talk about dogs.
when it comes to stupid Disney live action films of the '60s, definitely.
Oh, sure, okay.
I love
Okay,
that.
so send in that news,
Yeah.
people. I guess.
So if you have any,
Anything about the
news
9
stories about-
lives of Thomasina? Anything about the $1 Million Duck? Anything you got there? But moving on.
the computer wore dog shoes.
Pardon me.
I will not.
The next letter.
You're going to the chair. You will not receive a pardon.
It seems inevitable that a Black Friday-centered movie will make it in the near future.
Well, the movie Friday. Well, why we
no,
won't.
no, okay.
Oh,
The holiday Black Friday will be made in the near future. My question
holiday?
request...
The Gary Marshall movie Black Friday about people shopping.
Oh. I thought it was like. Never mind. I misunderstood.
This writer's question is, what will happen first? A Black Friday horror film in the style of The Purge, or a wacky Black Friday holiday movie, Christmas with the Crank style? Which comes first, and how do you cast it? Thanks, dudes, and keep on flopping in the free world into 2014 and beyond. So this is old. Dash, last name withheld, former contest winner. Dash.
I remember Dash.
Yeah.
Nice to hear from you again.
So if it's if it's like a futuristic sci-fi horror movie, clearly it's like The Running Man.
Yeah.
With cool characters like Buzzsaw, Fireball, Dynamo.
Buzzball.
Name some more.
Fire Mo, and of course Rucky.
Flat top,
Ruckus.
fireball,
Forever winner.
shoots a lot.
The
of
Rucking
Black
Man.
Friday.
That's why it's called the
Savvy.
Rucking Man, because he was their only winner ever.
Yeah.
I think it would be a comedy because you have all these different
Sure.
storylines and they're all going to the same store to get the same item.
Well, I mean, the movie is clearly going to be sponsored by Walmart.
Some kind
It's
of
up top.
Some kind of an
It's going to
Elmo
be
style.
an internship situation, like where the Google's behind it.
Yeah, unless it's like a found footage horror movie about people being stampeded to death as other people try to get $10 DVD players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $10 to watch a DVD.
it's
amazing.
It's a good deal. It's a good deal. I mean, even
I mean, that's a digital, versatile disc. everyone.
it's so versatile and it's so digital.
You can use it as a frisbee. You can put your
Finally.
mug on it.
Yeah.
It's very versatile.
You can break
Finally,
it.
I can answer the question as
This is a
what are
mirror.
the chapter titles for Point Break?
Finally. Who would you cast in it? Your regulars. Your Hector Elizondo, your Ashton Kutcher, your who else?
Ben Grimsby.
Yeah.
He'll be the Walmart
Your Jennifer
manager.
Garmeners.
and of course Owl Magical in a small role. Who
The
else? Your,
CG for him.
your Bradley Whoopsie.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Jessica Alberts.
your Charlene McCrane's.
Your Willie Tall Salts.
Look at this.
Winston Leg Thigh.
Yeah, of course.
Meat
Your
Man
Susan
Berry.
Saran wraps.
Speaking of Cracked Magazine.
Your Hanky Berries.
Yeah, we're
And of course, your Alan Rucks.
But We have a really short last letter before we move
These
on
are
to
the
our final
scary
section.
ones.
Hey guys, I ate mushrooms one weekend for the first time,
Okay.
and somehow ended up listening to your show for the first time
right?
as well.
Inappropriate.
A long, slow, weird story short, I ended up listening to like half of your catalog that night. But the reason I'm emailing is because it didn't stop there. For the next 2 weeks, every movie I watched was narrated by the Flophouse. It was awesome. I don't only feel like I know you guys, but that there's a psychedelic bond, especially with Elliot. You rock. Travis, last name withheld.
Thanks, Travis. It's really nice.
The least likely one of us to do mushrooms is the one that
I already do not trust my perception of reality. I am not going to make it any weirder.
Yeah.
The number of times I think there's a thing behind me, only to turn around and find there's nothing there, I don't want to make that more.
You're saying that you always feel like somebody's watching you.
Yeah, exactly. Or like I'm like the hero of the Iron Maiden song "Fear of the Dark."
But if anyone else has
That's the easy hero, right?
Yeah, he's the good
He
guy.
conquers over the dark.
Yeah, he's the white hat.
I feel like if anyone else has any Flophouse related drug hallucinations, I would love to hear it.
Sure, yeah.
But now
Other than us.
we need to move on to the final segment where we recommend a
Final
movie.
segment.
Last of the night. This segment is final. Finish him. Flawless victory. Babality.
Wow, he did it right away.
Friendship.
These are bits that we
I
haven't
didn't
heard
know
in a
them.
while.
Yeah. Radar is playing at
Row!
Oscar. Uh-oh.
So
ROCK in the USA, etc.
anyway,
Is this the last episode,
I
Dan?
don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
If we're all hit by a bus tomorrow.
So movies that we want to recommend that we enjoyed. I'll kick it off.
This is when we recommend movies we didn't dislike.
Yeah.
Or to put it another way, movies we liked.
Okay.
When I was
Young, life was so wonderful.
when I was on vacation,
You flew on a plane
recently.
during that vacation.
No,
I
this
was-
is-
Guess what he watched on the plane?
No, no.
Movies.
when I was in a hotel in London, I turned on the television,
They call it Telly there.
and
After Telly Savalas, the
What?
inventor of the television.
what did my wondering eyes did appear? But the Crazies remake.
Oh.
And I want to recommend.
Josh Duhamel.
No, Timothy Oliphant is in it, but
Timothy's Elephant.
I want to recommend actually both versions of the Crazies. Both versions of the Crazies. I think that the first
That's crazy.
the first version of the Crazies now,
Which
it-
stars my friend Natalie's dad.
really,
Yeah.
If you don't know the Crazies, it's basically George Romero remaking his zombie movie, but it's a movie about an evil, like a military agent, like an Agent Orange style,
It's like an
Right.
Agent Coulson.
that is improperly disposed in this small town.
Like Return of the Living Dead.
And guess what people go?
They go crazy.
Yeah.
And they start killing each other. And it's an interesting movie in a couple ways. I feel like Night of the Living Dead, the original, there's a lot of talk about, George Romero talks about how he didn't really intend necessarily for it to be making a big
A social
societal
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that there was colorblind casting of the main role that it took on this extra element. But the Crazies,
He intended to just be the follow-up to his hit film Romero and Juliet.
right. Well, the Crazies seems to be much more explicit taking on of the Vietnam War through a horror movie. So it's interesting in that it's Romero reacting to his previous film in that way. But it also, I was thinking about it, like, the Crazies was Romero. Like, Romero started the whole modern zombie film.
Mhm.
Like, he birthed that. But he also, with the
From out of his
Crazies,
head, like Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
he anticipated where the zombie film eventually would go with this idea of
Crazy.
like zombies as something that's created by like this virulent agent, this like some sort of disease.
Some umbrella corps.
Yeah, I mean, like he basically invented the revisionist zombie movie himself later on, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about. And it's not as good as Night of the Living Dead, but it's a lot of fun if you like a George Romero horror movie. And the remake is a surprisingly good modern horror movie. In
But it
large
does
part,
not have my friend Natalie's dad.
it does
in
not.
It does not have Will McMillan in it.
But I
it
love.
does have Josh Duhamel. Right?
No, it's got Timothy Oliphant,
Timothy
The rich-
Elephant.
the rich-
He's like the crazy version of Josh
he's
Duhamel.
the rich man's version of Josh Duhamel.
Which is ironic, because Josh Duhamel played a character named Danny McCoy
I don't think
on,
that's ironic.
I don't understand the
on
irony
a
there.
popular TBS rerun show, Las Vegas.
Anyway, the point is, I pretty much like Timothy Oliphant in anything. Guy's a good actor.
He is
He's handsome.
very charming.
I like him a lot. So, see.
Liking,
with an edge.
liking
Like,
him
he's a little
is
scary.
justified.
So those
And
are my
also
recommendations.
Deadwood.
Both the old and
He's
new
not
versions.
Deadwood. I'll have to see the new one. I like the
Yeah.
old one, but I haven't seen it.
So what do you guys got? Who wants to go?
Stuart, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go. I'm going to recommend a movie I don't think you guys have recommended yet. And it's a movie that by the time you're listening to this will probably be out of the theaters, which is too bad because it was really good. I'm going to recommend Edge of Tomorrow, a movie that there's been a number of think pieces.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
good.
lot of positive reviews
A
on
lot
the
of
internet.
stink pieces.
There's not a lot I can say other than
Crack magazine.
if you haven't seen it yet, you should really give it a shot. The marketing campaign was not particularly great.
It was
the
particularly
trailers-
terrible.
Yeah, I'm looking at a poster right now that says the tagline for Edge of Tomorrow is "Live on the Edge."
They did their
It's like,
best.
are you selling Mountain Dew or,
They did their
or some
best.
kind of pizza flavored snack?
Did their best for this ad campaign to make it appear as generic and oblivion-y as possible.
Yeah.
As possible.
And I feel like at this point, in
And
his
not
career,
Phantasm for Oblivion.
No,
Tom
that would be
Cruise
great.
movie
I would
Oblivion.
totally go see that. That's part of the thing is that I feel like at this point, a lot of movies, even though Tom Cruise is great in it, and he's great in a number of movies, a lot of times people don't want to see Tom Cruise because of Tom Cruise the person.
Mm-hmm.
And
But that forgets the fact that he's a very
Yeah,
talented movie star.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he uses his movie stardom in a way to kind of play in this movie.
He's
funny.
He knows his persona on screen so well now, and he can use it as a tool to do the performances in an interesting way.
And Emily Blunt is amazing. in
She's
the movie.
amazing. So
Amazing.
totally, don't go see Lucy. Go see this.
I mean, don't
Sure.
go see Lucy.
Don't
Probably.
go see Lucy.
It
at all.
continues Lucy continues to pass on the myth that people only use 10% of their brains, which is
Guys,
So
BS.
you use 10%
Guys,
of your, I don't know, money in your pocket.
I kind of want to see Lucy, though.
Well,
I
you
could-
can do that, but you've already seen
I've
Edge
seen
of
Edge of
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
right? So
I've seen Lucy.
So I get a hall pass for that?
you get all pass. But you don't come back stinking of Lucy. You better wash that shit off first.
Lucy is basically just
smear burritos
it's
on
just
yourself. So I
chic hero.
disguised it.
That's a reference to that.
the dirt, the Molly Crew story.
Yeah.
Nice.
burritos.
Okay.
I love the idea. Like,
So you live
there
on
was
the edge.
nothing. There was nothing less extreme than fucking a burrito that was gonna take the odor of another woman's
All other
like,
women,
bits
I
and
would
pieces off
Yeah.
of.
Bits and pieces. Because what?
I've
These
been-
women blown up? Were they having sex in a battlefield
I
in
feel
World
like
War
I was a
One?
little too gynecological earlier in the podcast. So I'm
Oh,
not
it's
trying
too
to
late. The
pull back.
12-year-old has heard it all.
Sure.
Elliot.
I'd like to recommend two movies, but real quick.
Whoa.
One is a big budget movie that's in the theaters now. It's called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it is the second of the new Planet of the Apes movies, and I thought it was really great. If anything, I liked it a little bit more than the last Planet of the Apes movie, which I also thought was really good.
So you'd say, wake up to this dawn. What's the plan?
I would. I would say there's a scene where an ape on horseback wielding a machine gun jumps through a wall of fire, and it was at that point I realized this is why movies were invented. That image justifies the entire history of film and all the billions upon billions of dollars that have been poured into this art form.
It's like the image your mind created when watching 2001 and the ape is standing in front of that obelisk, right, and holding the bone.
I mean, that's a great image too.
Someday that bone's gonna be.
I was like, this needs a
Machine
machine gun, a horse, and some fucking fire. And the other movie I'd like to
We'll
recommend
talk Kubrick.
is I'm a big fan of Steve Coogan's show I'm Alan Partridge and the Alan Partridge character.
But did you watch the
General.
Alan Partridge?
And I
also
did,
watched
yeah.
that.
And I just recently watched finally the movie Alan Partridge Alpha Papa, which came out last year, I guess.
Or I think
in the US
I think
early
in the US
this year.
it's just called Alan Partridge. I think.
On Netflix, it's listed as Alan
Oh, really?
Partridge Alpha Papa, which was the UK title. It's not a good title, but I found it to be really funny, and it's not the most amazing movie, but like for considering it's the only comedy that's new that I've seen in a while where I was like consistently laughing, and a lot of that is just because Steve Coogan is so funny in that character, and he has a lot of great lines, and they don't go too big with the story. Like it's not Alan Partridge solving a murder mystery. It's not him on a big adventure. His bag doesn't get mixed up with a spy's bag, and he's on the run. Like, it's a pretty small scale story, but done with a lot of humor and a little bit of heart.
Well, and I read a review where they, I think it might have been over at the Dissolve, where they made a good point where they're just saying that it's an interesting movie too because they're putting a character who is resolutely self-interested in a position where he has to be like at least a little bit of a hero, so that makes for a good comedic conflict.
But his
still a dick.
self-interests are constantly getting in the way of him doing anything heroic. He's still an asshole.
Yeah.
And hey, who's that? Miles O'Brien from Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. Is he in it? Yes, he
Wait,
is.
is that Odo?
No, Miles O'Brien's the character. Call me.
Real quick, I'm going to jump in, and I want to make a second recommendation.
Whoa.
That's allowed, right?
Unprecedented.
This is.
Are you guys
There's
gonna
nothing in the
allow it?
rule book that
Okay.
says he can't.
I just want to
here it
real
is.
quick.
No, but we'll
See you
allow
guys
it.
later.
There's nothing in the rule that says a dog can't recommend a movie.
I want to recommend.
Stuart, are you a dog?
I want to recommend what I would consider to be a great bad movie. A movie that is the type of movie that I wish every time we sit down for one of these Flophouse podcasts.
Deep in your heart.
Yeah,
You're dreaming.
Last weekend, I participated in a Flophouse Facebook group watch, where members of the group on the Facebook page watch a movie, and we watched Double Dragon, which is amazing.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen Double Dragon, it's on Netflix. Watch it; it is amazing.
I
Robert
stopped-
Patrick is insane.
I stopped by Stuart's apartment when he was finishing watching this. That's right, we hang out in real life. Jealous, and it's pretty crazy.
So yeah,
If you want to
and
see,
if you haven't joined our Facebook group, it's fine.
if you want to see some of the zaniest,
Unless you're a
clothes
fucking
person
sex
ever
bot,
Yeah.
take that Ray-Ban business.
Wait.
somewhere else.
If you're a sex pot, feel free to join.
That's
If
why I
you're
don't
a
think
sex
Ray-Ban
bot.
sponsors us, is because they're too busy setting sex bots to infiltrate us for
Also,
free.
Hey, sex bots have feelings too.
if you're not nice, maybe don't join. I feel like when it was smaller, like it was easier to keep out people who were maybe harassing people.
Wow, has that been a problem lately?
As the group grows larger, it grows more like the internet at large.
I see. Well,
If you're going to harass anybody, harass me.
Yeah.
as
Stuart can
I
take it.
it.
as Kurt Vonnegut once said, "Be nice" on the Flophouse Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. But those
Those are
are
Cat's Cradle, right?
Yeah. And
Oh.
the Silver Spoon, Little Boy Blue, etc.
great,
When you coming home, Stuart? I don't know when.
Cut it out.
We'll get together then, Stuart.
great recommendations.
Ugly Kid Joe.
But now we need to
Classic Ugly Kid Joe song.
we need to sign off
Let's
so
wrap
we can
it up.
gather around Elliot's feet and listen to more Tales of Ruck.
Oh, yes, children, gather ye round, for now the story of how Ruck deceived the Baba Yaga and won the rights to the chicken leg house
and
and turned it into condos.
won the rights to the movie Boat Trip.
Only to lose them in an arm wrestling match with a giant.
But before
The moral of the story is Ruck happens.
we'll take that story off air. In the meantime, I've been Dan McCoy.
I've been Stuart Wellington.
And I will continue to be Elliot Kalin as long as I can help it.
Good night, everyone.
What you drinking there? A gimlet?
The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue.
Hamburgers.
classic.
All in a bag. Hamburgers.
Wait, that's your vocal warm up?
Yeah.
I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Glorp mush, glorp mush, glorp mush, glug glug.
Is that your Mad Magazine?
This is my
That was
Tom
the best-
Martin
yeah, that's-
vocal warm ups. Spoing,
Magazine.
spoing, sprong, phone bone,
It was,
kasploing, shallop.